But in 1960, we'll hear the real story. In 68, 25 years later, where Gifted needed somebody to partner with him in the Ateres Yeshiva in Cleveland. You remember there's a person that I have a couple of time, I have a sheet of time to that person that gave up his possible position for me to get the position. And really he didn't have to, he just gave up the possibility of the position. That's a goes on chorus and time for somebody. And he brought it into Torah. And now it follows through, and then there came another new relationship between the Gewirtz family and the Gifter family. And it built up. And then what's the fruits of that occurrence of time? More time. And then Rav Yonah became the world of town. He built up the town, and what happened? I believe it was by one of the Shera brothers. Rav Gifter asked him to speak, and Rav Gifter started speaking about how when he was in Waterbury, all the institutions weren't exactly organized or arranged in the proper way. But came now, and Rav Abba Zalka created an organization, institution. And what Rav Yonah did was, he brought it to another level as he built the shul, and he built the mikvah, and brought up the level of Yiddishkeit. And we owe, just for that itself, a tremendous occurrence of time, because you don't know what it is. You get to know. When you get a building, the shul building, they shalom, mortgage-free, I believe it was. Mortgage-free. Yeah, it cost us over here in the yeshiva $650,000 for this building, and we got a mortgage-free building. Why? Because of one person who carried the weight and carried the burden of building that building. We owe our cars of time. A tremendous cars of time. And it continues on. Is that occurs at time that we owe the community and the yeshiva to the entire Gewirtz family. So a few years ago, I got a call from Dovid, who I didn't know, and he says that he has a son that's maybe not old enough to enter the base of Medrash, but but I considered taking him. And it was a time that we didn't have the room, and many reasons not to at the time, for the time being at the time, and when I heard of Abba Zalka Gevirtz's grandson, I knew I had a sense of embarrassment sometimes. How can I say no? And then, Yonah asked about his grandson to come this year, and it was pretty late in the season, very late in the season, but how can you can't even entertain saying no because of our curse of time. The God of Yahrzeit. But now I have a new curse sometimes that we have to deal with right now. I'm now a new market type because the yeshiva got 2-star talmidim, one in the Sifta, one in the base of Medrash, and our curse of time, we're reaping more time, and now we owe our curse of time to the Gewirtz family, just for the children and the grandchildren of the entire Gewirtz family. And Yitz Hashem, this relationship of time, curse of time, and time, you're going to see a tremendous rolling eternity, or everlasting roll, circle of time. And with this, I would like to ask the Yonah Gewirtz to address the Ahron as Zikaron for his father and our protection.
Waterbury is my hometown. I grew up here, was involved here, and I was fortunate to come and visit these a couple of years ago. And since then, all of my friends know there's only one yeshiva in America that I like. which had Primus Pavel in the stam. That's where he married the Rebbetzin, Tante Shoshana. And the Mordechai himself made the chasna, by the way. I'll back up because this is a little bit reverberating for me. And she liked to tell the story how for $500 he borrowed and he made their wedding in 1940, Hanukkah side. And he cut the fruit and he cut the flowers and set the table. This is how a Rosh Yeshiva should be. This is what a Rebbe is all about. My father certainly was equally the same. And anyway, when the Mordechai heard the story about this Rabbi Gewirtz who gave him his job, he said, "My Nebno Geher, as the ehrliche Yid shall wegnehmen, das Wissen bereut." He's like, "No, I never met such an honorable person who would take a piece of bread out of his own mouth and give us a friend." It had nothing to do with the story. He's your man. He's better. That's all the make-believe fairy tales. That's art school, you know. That's the stuff that we put on later on to make it look good. It was dealing with two human beings. The Mordechai had a son who was born November 11th, 1941. The Abba Zalka had a son born November 11th, 1940. There's a year in our birthday difference. My father had enough money to feed me, Baruch Hashem, and ultimately wanted to feed my sister Vivian. The Mordechai didn't have, and that's the beginning of the story, truthfully. And if you'll ever ask Tante Shoshana, the Mordechai's Rebbetzin, and I spoke to her the other night because it was from Mordechai's Yahrzeit, Chav Gimel Teves, and I told her that I will mention him because Eric Ibn Ahron in Waterbury to Baruch Hashem, so he has a chalik. But I will tell you, getting back to what the Rosh Yeshiva quoted on that tape, what the Mordechai said at the Shever Brachos was, "Mein guter Rav Abba Gewirtz, misteltem Leben a bissel Wasser," you put him next to a little bit of water, like Waterbury, ve'ein teira elo mayim, ve'ein mayim elo teira, there is nothing but water and teira, that's it. Gibt them the Wasser und es blinkt, and it grows and it flourishes. And then he said all the good things, and then he said, "It's the yeni, give this was immer zu dir." Now here I'm giving you the opportunity. Longer said, was du bist tun, mit das bisschen Wasser. So Waterbury is still here, Baruch Hashem. There's a wonderful halacha. I want to thank my nephew Hillel for keeping me within the realm of where I'm going to speak. Most of you who knew my father, my family, knew that he had a very unique gift. He could pick up a Mishnah learn a halacha, and from a halacha, Mishnah say almost rules, and teach you what Iyun HaTorah is and what Halamas HaTorah is. So the Kufzadin test, the halacha is Ami Mizamin V'Ami Ein Mizamin. By Kirchas Amos, is a halacha you have to have a zimun. Question is, with whom are you mizamin and with whom you are not? So the halacha is ein mizamin in am haaretz gom. If someone is in am haaretz, you don't, because he's not counted. He wouldn't be counted for a minute either. Because if it's a matter of a zimun by benching, whether it's for 3 or for 10, it applies to a minute also. You want to go the oldest way. But then the Mishnah Berurah says something very nice. I want to hear. Am haaretz gom. What does this mean? Am haaretz gom. The Gemara Amino, the Afilu, Torah, the Shema, the Leil Shemesh, Al Torah, the Hainu, the Odim, Tamei HaMishnos, the Hachos, the Harav, and the Zami. If you have somebody who is ostensibly a Talmud Chacham, ostensibly someone who knows Chumash, who knows Mishnah, who knows Mikveh, who knows Shulchan Aruch, who knows the Rambam, Yonah, he learned, and he reviews it, whether it's 3 times, whether the Gemara says it even 4 times. After all, he knows. He's a bookhead. He didn't have Jewish kashonim and Harav gomer. As my father would say, das kommt nicht, das kommt der Helle der Chatzai. Das steht in it. So a bocher who is in a yeshiva, who has an opportunity to learn from a Rebbe, and he doesn't take advantage of it, and he goes through each machlokah, he goes through each part of the Masechta, he becomes a Talmud Kernel, and he writes Chiddushei Torah. Maybe it's also the Zamen. Maybe you can't use him as part of the Zimul, as part of the minyan. The halacha concludes the Bisman Hazeh. We incorporate everybody because we live in a Dovid Yosem, we live in an orphan generation where there aren't enough Bnei Torah and there aren't enough Talmidei Chachamim. So the Meila and Amoritz also gets included. From my father I learned a simple lesson. He used to love to say, Torah Chitzinosa Sinai. Everybody remembers that expression. What does this mean? Torah Chitzinosa Sinai. Moshe Kibul Torah Sinai U'Saru Ala Yeshiva. Torah becomes a tradition, a Messiah, as Dovid would like to call his Rosh Yeshiva Gemortche. It's not a Yerusha Hilach. It's not an inheritance. It's something you toil for. But if you don't have a Rebbe, you don't know what you're toiling for. If you have a professor of Talmud who doesn't give you a derech ha'chaim, then it's words. You make a bracha every morning, Asher Bocha Abonu, Birchas HaTorah. And a part of the bracha is to become Yodei Hashem, to know who the Rebbeinu Shalom is, and Loimei Lishmo. And once I know who the Rebbeinu Shalom is, then I have the opportunity of learning Torah Lishmo, which means it's a glorification for Him. I need to tell you, I know I'm different than other people. I'm happy when you learn a service, and I'm happy when you learn a Rambam, and I'm happy when you have Milchamta Shel Torah. But if it's for your ego, it doesn't count. If it's for your pleasure, and it's hard to learn the Shem Shemayim, and I agree, it's hard to learn the Shem Shemayim. I remember telling this to the Mortal once, to learn the Shem Shemayim, I haven't achieved that yet. And he smiled. He said, "Ich weiß noch alles, was ich dort nicht umgekommen." My father wasn't the Shem Shemayim. He had a unique Shem Shemayim, I want you to know. He was Zaycha, he loved it, and he enjoyed it. But he only learned because from his Rebbe HaGoyen Rav Dovid, he understood that only through the words of Torah can you come close to the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's not that you're learning because you want to know, and you don't learn halacha to tell you what's not good, what's yes good. It's all Avodas Hashem. That's why the halacha al mi mizamnin v'al mi ein mizamnin. So that's one thing. It's a good halacha to know. I remember many years ago, and I have this photo in front of me, but I have a head. So, and I thank you. We'll try. I heard a Shmuel tells me yeshiva when I was 15 years old. So not much older than many of you and younger than most of you. And in the Medrash, and since I mentioned that I would mention Rabbi Gifter's name, he was the one who said the Shmuel. And he didn't care what our ages were because at times his content was far above all of us. And the only two people who made an impact on me in my life in the area of Drush and Mefarshim and Chazal was my father, and after him the Mordechai. As my father used to like to say to me, Yonah, I know you watch me, and I turn red, and I schwitz, and I make with my hands, and you hope someday you can do that. was right. Ad hayom hazeh, I still see him in the shul in Waterbury, which isn't here anymore. And I close my eyes and I hear and I see and I used to pray that I could achieve that. And then I remember the Lord was saying this Shmuel with this medrash. The Gemara goes through a whole discussion about Avnei Ekdoch. Ekdoch, so the Rashban says, Ekdoch means carbuncle stones, that they glisten brighter than all other kind of stones. And if you have a carbuncle stone, according to the Gemara and the Rashban and the Version, this is the light that's going to lead you from Olam Hazeh to Olam Haba and light up your world. Kiho, the Nachman, the Nachman was teaching a shir on the sweaters like this. The commemorate, and some of the brachos started to fall asleep. Breakfast was over, I guess. And the carbohydrates and the proteins wore out. And it's almost lunchtime, the gurgles of the stomach began, and he wanted them to listen. So in he starts telling them, Bisman osi lovoi, in the time of the future, osi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty, the British Lenin is going to bring avonim, special, costly, very worthy stones, from which will be carved, and it gives them dimensions, measurements which are unreal. Leil, all of Yahrzeit Talmud. Sitting in the Besmedrash, sitting in the shir, was a smart aleck. That's what we would interpret this time. And he said, an egg the size of this kind of a bird, which is already the biggest bird we have, doesn't produce an egg big enough. How are you going to tell the Rashbam see at the bottom of the page? How are you going to find an egg with a stone big enough to make what you're telling me? Rebbe Hakstad Chinese. That much Yiddish you know? You're not going to teach that. I don't believe you. Gemara goes further. After a few days, this Talmud went to Lake Wasserpark. You know what Lake Wasserpark is? Okay. And he went rowing in his rowboat. And suddenly, while he's in his rowboat, he sees angels. And what does he see the angels doing? They're sitting there with hammers and chisels, and they're carving beautiful stones. Big, everything that he heard about. And he turns to the Malachim and he says, Hani Lama, for whom are these stones? Remember, the Malachim answered him and said, Honey, in the future, the Rebbeinu Shmuel is going to use these stones for the entrance of the Beis Mikdash. And then if you go into the Gemara, which is already, I know, in Beis a little bit more, the Gemara discusses how tall will people be, the Osi Lovai, because Adam Harishon was a kaima, was 100 meters. And the Osi Lovai, because of the Pesukim, is going to be double the size. So you're going to need stones and entranceways wide enough and big enough and tall enough. And the Malachim are describing all of what the future is going to be. He finishes his journey, he turns the boat back, I guess he gets his refund, and he walks into this medrash and he says, Rebbe, Droish, or I'm not my Rebbe, speak, say your drosha, say your musar, give me your limu. For you say beautiful, good things.
Asher Omarto Keinoisi. I saw exactly what she said. You see the stinker? I'm from Missouri. I had to see it to believe it. But the Rebbe Gewirtz, the Molei Leil Isa Loi Hamanto. And if you didn't see it with your own eyes, would you not have believed? And he responds, Reiko! I can remember how the Mordechai yelled out that word, Reiko! He didn't just say Reiko, he says, Pustiate! You empty vessel! Do garbage! My father would say, what do this? You say I don't believe, and then you go on your little rowboat and now you believe. Nosan Eino Boy Benas and he becomes disintegrated and deteriorated into a mountain of little bones. This is not enough. This I didn't hear from Mordechai, and I didn't hear from my father. Now you have to go see how does the Mashor or Pshat in this Gemara. So the Mashor, because after all, Gal Shalat Somis, disintegration, deterioration, that has to happen over a period of time. It's you can tell me he looked at him and he died. The heat of tears, he's dead. But to deteriorate, and those of you who learned the dafs, you remember Allah and Ches, the Gemara discussed last week on Rekemat Somas. So you need to understand what the Rekemat Somas means and what the Pasuk in Iyah is talking about there when we talk about the Shoyim. Now I guess in Yeshiva we don't learn the dafs, so I shouldn't do this. Okay, we'll leave that alone. You're not mechuyev to. Only guys like me who don't learn enough, we have to make believe. So we scan the daf, and my friends read the art scroll footnotes, but it's also important. Because I have to tell you, Mordechai doesn't really get out, he pushed and he fought for that. Despite who felt that he was wrong and he was right. Because there is more Ateres in the world today than there ever was. And your Rosh Yeshiva was a partner too. He also signed a letter. And he was very courageous. I remember, I was a young man then, so I remember. And I owe you a medrash Rabbi yet to me already from the last time. So there is a medrash here in case we have the time. So Ashur says, and he brings a Rashi, and he quotes the Gemara. The Rashi, he doesn't tell you where, but it's a Rashi in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Daled, that describes Gal Shalat Somes, and he says, Gal Shalat Somes, you get a mountain of stones, of bones, because they've been there for a long time, and then they deteriorate. Bones don't disintegrate immediately, but it's there for a period of time. And then the Mashor brings them down a Gemara in the Rosh, which you should all know. It's Yud Ches. Tzadikim, Misoso, Kriyim Chayim, U'Leshoyim, Chayim, Kriyim Mesi. That a tzaddik, when he is alive, certainly he's alive. When he's dead, he's also alive. And the Rosh, when he's alive, he's dead. And where do we learn this? The Pasuk teaches, Al Pishnayim Eidim Yokim Dovah, you look at your chest and see. And the Pasuk then says, the Yomus HaMeis. Digduk is strange, looking at Yomus HaMeis. The dead man is going to die. We're doing a Hayde with an Odar, with an Osmi. It means, while he's alive, Mesu Meikol, he's already dead. That's why the Gemara goes back about 12 more lines and tells you about Benayahu ben Yehoshua, the whole world dead. They gave birth to children. They were fathers. They were mothers. They were family. The answer is no. Imas HaMeis, Meis Meikol. They were dead from the time they began. And so the Mashor says, Riglei Olov Oisei Talmud. This Talmud, this disciple, this Bochach in the Beis Medrash, this Colonel Yonah, this Beis Medrash boy, he was never a Talmud. Ateres, Kvoni Kedem. I'm sure the one prior to this used the word Ateres. These are very harsh, very disturbing kind of words to talk about somebody who's sitting in a Beis Medrash. But let's go a little bit further. Do you understand who this Talmud was? Asher Liglei Or? Omar, my head, he spoke to a Malach. Have you ever spoken to Malachim? I hope you have. I didn't. At least I don't know if I did. And certainly I don't know if I was Zeicher. They Omru Leil, and they answered him the Malachim. And this same Talmud, who was able to go out, see Malachim, talk to Malachim, comes back to the Beis Medrash, and he says to him, Reiko Ato, you're empty. The ganze Tere deine Torah wert. Why is your Torah worthless? Because it's not Teras Hashem, it's Mimah Meshivas Nofesh, it's not the pure Torah, it's not Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai Misaru Yeshua. And parenthetically, if you turn the same Gemara from the Basar Ayin Hey to Ayin Hey up in Beis on the bottom, so then the Gemara makes a comment there and talks of the difference as Pnei Moshe to Pnei Achamo, Pnei Yeshua to Pnei Halevono. The face of Moshe is like the sun, and Yeshua is like the moon. And the Gemara says, woe to such a world that has such shame and embarrassment in such a brief period of time. B'chayo of Moshe, b'chayo of Yeshua. You see Yeshua falling down, and Teras Moshe isn't where it belongs. Al achas kamo v'kamo, where we are such a der yosom, but we have the other opportunity. Moshe was already. Yeshua was a Talmud. He never left the tent, so he was Zeicher. I asked you to bring me a Tanchum in Chavav, so we'll tell you what it talks about in Chavav. It's in B'Shalach. This is really up my father's alley, for those of you who understand what Musar is. The difference between Ben Odom Lachaveiroi, the difference between Aslabot and Habona and Musar, and the difference between other types of Musar. Because Musar was never meant to be, quote, give him hell, Harry kind of thing. That's not what Musar is. Musar is to make you grow, to realize what your potential is. Godless ha'odom, but the chasreinu me'at king. You're just a little bit less. And how much more you can be. This my father heard from his Rebbe, Rabbi Kaufman's Rebbe, heard it from the mountain Slobodkin. That's what you heard from the Mashgiach. They didn't yell at you for coming late to davening. They didn't have to yell at you for coming late to davening. Because you wouldn't want to be late if you knew that you were part of a Tzelem of the King. If you knew there was a Lishma. If you knew that you had a Neshama Techilik Elokam Imal within you. Suddenly, Moshe Rabbeinu, what does he do? He turns to Yeshua and he says, B'choyer lonu anoshim. He wants to get partners. He needs to help Klal Yisrael. We can check the Rosh, it's there. But he turns to Yeshua and he says, B'choyer lonu anoshim. He doesn't say, B'choyer li. He talks to his Talmud, the Ahron. Moshe the greatest. Talks to his Talmud and he says, B'choyer lonu. Amidin the Yahrzeit, a a lesson, courtesy, not like when you come into the besmetters. Hey, through the commemorate? Pour the coffee. You got any sugar left? This is how we are. It's not nice. And when you're an adult, I've seen older people, the ones who give you and me advice, talk also that way. Because, as the Rosh Yeshiva said earlier, Hakaras HaToiv is forgotten very fast. There was a man here in Waterbury when I first came who was very nice to me. His name is on the shul in front of Waterbury. His name is Gartzman. You'll see it on the Manega outside in the hall, in B'nai Shalom. And he said to me, Junior, that was my name. A few of them, I was rabbi. A lot of them called me Junior because my dad was senior. You have to understand, you're a terrific guy. We're happy to have you for the Rav. You do wonderful things, but don't ever tell me what you did for me yesterday. I want to know what you're going to do tomorrow. And that was a phenomenal lesson of Hakaras HaToiv to his neshama, wherever it is. And I remembered it, I was 27 or 28 years old. And this guy said it to me. And then I remember, it was so sweet. He said, do you need a raise this year, Rabbi? Did that ever happen to you? Somebody was told you need a raise? I wasn't going to ask why I need a raise. What do you think? You're raising kids, Baruch Hashem. So I said, yes. And he says, you know what you have in mind? I said, I do, but I'm a little bit afraid to ask. He says, give me a figure. So I gave him a figure. He said, I don't like that figure. So I said, I was afraid of that. And he didn't say a word. The next morning, he came to daven and he says, I just want you to know, Rabbi, this is the raise you're getting over the next 5 years. And it was a heck of a raise. And it made me feel good. To quote my brother, I felt 10 feet tall. No one likes to say that. Because us words boys, I shouldn't speak for him, but I'm shorter, I think. My father was shorter still. But I felt great and I felt appreciated. I never forgot that lesson. Don't tell me what you did. You know, somebody asks you for an adult, I just gave. My wife taught me if the hand is out, you give it. Getting back now to the Tanchumi. And then he says, from here we learn if the relationship between you and your Talmud is to a chover, how should your relationship be with a chover? So it relates to us a conversation between he and his brother Ahron. And in that relationship, Ahron becomes his Rebbe. And now suddenly the friend becomes a Rebbe. And then the Medrash concludes, the respect you have for your Rebbe is that which you have for the Rebbeinu Shalom. And then the Medrash tells us a beautiful story that I want to share. I said it before, and it's worthy of repeating. This is my way of understanding what my father was zeicha to, what I was zeicha to, what our family was zeicha to. Remember the story? It's the Haftarah in Parshas Leil. The story of the tsunamis. And then she eventually has a child. And the child goes out in the middle of the day and he says, Roshi, Roshi, my head, it hurts, I have a headache. And they lay him down in bed in the little room they had built for the Novi, for Alicia. And she runs and they send to find Alicia. She says, did I ask for a child, that he should be born to die? Elisha comes, but before he comes, he says to Gehazi, Kach es hamishenes es hamate, take my staff, take my robe, speak to no one out of the way. You have a job to revive and resuscitate and give life to this youngster. And he ran. Somebody stopped him on the way and said, where are you going? Ace. Rak HaKodesh Baruch Hu Mechayim Esi. Only the Rebbeinu Shalom will be Mechayim Esi. How can you? In Gehaz he says, Ve'af Rebbe Mechayim Esi. My Rebbe, he too has the gift of giving life eternal. I say this to you. My father had a Rebbe, I learned of Dovid Leibowitz, who gave him life and gave him meaning, which gave me life and gave me meaning, and all of our family life and meaning. And here in Waterbury, it started because of how Dovid raised my father. My father didn't start out in this world to be a rabbi. He wanted to be a gym teacher, by the way. Okay? My dad was a weightlifter. He won medals. We have the pictures, don't we, guys? He was able to press with one arm, 135 pounds. That was his body weight. My dad was all of barely 5'4". Then he joined the chaplaincy in World War II. And I'll tell you what the Bible told him he should do then. The doctor said, stand on your tiptoes so you'll be tall enough so I can accept you in the army. Went to the Dovid. And I won't tell you the whole story, but he was ready to leave the yeshiva. He had a dream, like Jack LaLanne. He was going to open gymnasiums over all of America. He was a smart man, our dad. But Dovid said, take your strength, use it for Torah, use it for Yiddishkeit. Take what I teach you. I'm thinking now all of a sudden, one day my father was asked to speak on Eastern Parkway in a shul. He was 20 years old, our dad, you know the story. Lipke knows the story. So he went and he spoke. And he came back and Dovid said to him in Yiddish, Gewirtz, was ist geheim übergegeben? What did you discuss? So he says, ich habe gelernt, wir sehen die Musser von der Halacha von Dalet Vehei, von Abba Zalka. I learned with them the Halacha of Dalet Vehei, of 4 and 5, when a person steals, and you know that for a lamb, if you take a shepsela, there's a Halacha of Dalet. Because you carry him on your shoulder because of bullshit. And you pull an ox, you pay chamisha because he walks on his own feet. And the Dovid kissed him and says, oh, halavai wollt ich, gekennt nach English, halavai I can speak in English. Wollt man übergenommen ganz Amerika, the dictator, we can conquer America with this day. You guys are by coming and speaking the language, studying it in small towns and small communities, not being afraid to withstand the onslaught, and not worrying, are they gray hats or are they black hats? He was asking me, and I said, how happy I am to come here. This is what Yeshiva Ateres Shmuel of Waterbury is about. This is what my father gave me. This is what my father taught me. I'm going to throw one more little thing at you. We'll leave this. When I came in, so the guy met me as I came in and I said hello. And watched him. And I said, you know, the Pasuk says, Ushmi Hashem Loy Dati. The name of Hashem, I didn't tell Yisrael. The others, I told them the Kel Shaka. I said it. He says, but as a gift and a rachmanis to those who are living in Mitzrayim, those who are in the category of Yeshua may place the blood, may have heard the kosher, and I won't go into my father's loving, wonderful Chaim on this blessing. But they're coming out of Egypt. They don't understand. The obvious of the Mitzvah, I could create the world, and I could start nice and delicious on Friday. The It's enough! Because they will have within themselves the gift and the ability to create and to grow, and it will become takatoy. But with you, who are on this level right now, of suffering, of pain, who can't understand, Shmi Hashem, I'm going to give you bechesed and berachemim and tell you I will be here with you to help you. My beloved, to all of you, my fathers and Neshama should have an aliyah, the yeshiva, you should grow and have atzmachah, but most of all, please, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai, become Talmidim, take your Rabbeim and grow with them, and whenever you leave here someday, whenever, take your Rebbe in your heart. You will be Zeicha, and so will Klal Yisrael. Thank you.
And I pointed out when I gave the children the horse, when I knew I was home. It's very difficult getting up after my big brother, Yonah, because he really said it all. But as the events occur, I'm the youngest. I have some hard feelings that I'd like to share with you. When we're gathered here, gathered to pay tribute, so to speak, and to evaluate and understand who my father Zatzal was and what was about him that this source that he had, that today Waterbury is not only the community, the yeshiva, it's a bastion of Torah. What was it about my father that he gave his blood, sweat, and tears to this community, and it turned into what it turned into today? So I remember I told my boys that I was telling Hillel, which is such a nice rough, the babies, it's Torah Ateres outside show up. I remember we took them in and Rosh was fighting, but Torah is coming back, my family, the Ward's family, back to Waterbury. But I was told now I'm school in the year of Ateres with my mother, so I can't listen to music in the car. So I listen to therapy. I keep myself out of trouble. So I found a lot of shoes and things that I heard from my father. And I heard something that he said when he was a relatively young man. It was in the tape. He used to bother me as a child. He wouldn't tell you how old he was, but he would say, well, I was married at 39 and I was a cradle snatcher and my wife was 22. So you do the math. But I heard he was younger, when he was 79, he came over and he said this, and it's going to be difficult for me to even repeat it because I'm going to get emotional just saying it because I can picture him standing here in Waterbury and he would keep schmoozing in Waterbury. I remember when we were gifted and we were shooting around and they would come and visit as a little kid. I used to hear them saying to my father, I don't understand, how do you get it? You said it's a child. You said it's a child. Who are you talking to? You walked into the crowd. You get everything what you're talking about. He said, wow, this is unbelievable. And he would get excited and he would talk. And that's why, not only that's why Waterbury is what it is today, but you see, when we were hanging up with somebody that my father was Picard with a twinkle in his eye and his captivating smile and his personality, it's amazing. You can see it on Yonah and our children. Trying, the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Kuf Aleph. HaKoyrei Pasuk Shal Shir Hashir, V'oisa Jibin Zemer, Levi Roh. One who recites the Pasuk of Shir Hashir, Kodesh Kadoshim, and he renders it as a kind of a song by singing it if you explain it literally into a common melody, maybe raw brings misfortune to the world. If they got Torah, the Torah Your children are making a mockery. They are taking like a fiddle upon which scoffers play its grand. Shir Hashir, which is Kurdish Kadoshim, they don't realize that it is true, authentic, unadulterated Torah. They say it's beautiful, it's poetic. And my father said in a romantic presentation, if you will. But it's not Torah, it's Nosson Sinai. And this conviction and selflessness and unbending the strength of my father, that he wouldn't bend, that he was so strong, and he did it with a smile, and he did it with being being so well liked and admired and appreciated. And that's why, because of that strength of living with the Messiah day to day and not giving in to, this is going back to the first time he said it in 1947. So in 1947, that wasn't the style to be tired and to be learning and to be growing, but his dream was to build a day school, and his dream was that there should be Torah and emes Torah unadulterated, and that's what Waterbury is today. So it should be an aliyah for my father's Zatzal, and it is my school within the year of my mother, and they had such a shalom bayis relationship. One of my nieces from Lakewood, when they would come to an Ahron for my mother, so went into the principal or something and said, "Oh, where are you going?" "Oh, I have to go to Gord's uncle." "Oh, is that the shalom bayis couple from Cleveland?" So I would be remiss if I wouldn't mention my mother now. But it should be a spuz for daddy, an aliyah for his neshama, and he should be a Leil for the yeshiva, for Waterbury to continue to grow as a molten Torah, as a bastion for Torah, but the Torah of the alpha for Slavov is Torah, the Torah. And Leil for Blimi and my children and the Mishpacha, and for my sister Rebecca who's here, and Phil and the Mishpacha, and Dina, who's not here, for her and the family, should be Leil. And we should be Zayfid and continue to do things that will be an elevation and an aliyah. And Be'ez Hashem is Baruch, we should all we will all be reunited. Mashiach Tzidkeinu v'Meher B'Meinu Amen.
Together.